Hi, Rose.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, got you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you guys.
Okay.
All right.
So we're going to have Larry start the meeting as the sort of outgoing reappointed to the park board member. And then we're going to do the vote at one point. And then if someone else does end up being the chair, at that point that person would take over, just so it's clear to everyone. Give people an opportunity to.
Are we ready?
Yep,
Ready to
we're good.
start?
Yep.
This must be Seth. Hi. I'm
Yeah.
Larry.
And we should add a little welcome. Yes, which we don't have on there.
Well, we'll do roll call.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do a verbal roll call so that everybody knows.
Everyone.
Knows who everybody is. Owen, we'll start with you.
Yep, Owen Castro is here.
Yvonne McMillan.
And I'm Larry Sleeman.
Chelsea Turner.
Yeah, Scott Austin.
And then we have
Rose Bricker.
tell us just briefly what your interest is with getting on the park board, or not to put you in the spot, but.
So I've been involved with park activities in other places off and on. I was a neighborhood chair in inner southeast neighborhood in Portland, and I got together an annual picnic in the park to bring people together and all around parks. Let's make them vital. So, I want to help.
Well, welcome.
Great.
Yeah. Tyler is not here tonight.
Correct.
How come Rose isn't on that green?
We don't turn that screen on anymore.
Huh?
We don't turn that screen on anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay.
Tyler also is not added on the agenda, so.
He's not, is he? All right. We'll next go to public comments. And I don't see anyone, so we'll keep going. Everyone got a copy of the minutes and sure peruse them carefully. Are there any corrections or additions? Motion to approve those. So,
Make a motion to approve the moment.
all right, motion's been made to approve the December 3rd meeting minute.
Second.
Do I hear a second? I do. All right, any comments? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise? Passes unanimously.
Are you aye, Rose? You can just raise your hand.
Oh.
Aye.
Sorry, I need to have it in front of me.
Aye.
Turn it on, or?
No, you're fine.
Oh, it's fine.
I,
Maybe. Let's see what it does.
She said yeah, and then she went to it.
Yeah.
all right, while we're doing that, the first meeting of every year, which is this one, we do an election and we have a chair and vice chair positions available. So if you want to nominate yourself or someone else, there I can see her now. This is the time to do it.
Otherwise it stays the same. No, we still have to vote.
Somebody has to.
I'll nominate Larry Sleeman. Is there anyone else that wants to make a nomination or volunteer? You can self-volunteer if you would like.
And I will nominate Yvonne McMillan for vice chair.
Do you accept?
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Do we vote on that first, or do we vote on both of it?
We can probably vote on both unless there's anyone else. I should make sure it's open. Anyone else? Anyone else? Rose? Okay, so you can just vote by an all in favor of Larry Sleeman being the chair of the Park Advisory Board and Yvonne McMillan being the vice chair of the Park Advisory Board for 2025. You can say, all in favor, say aye. Aye?
All in favor, say aye.
Oh, aye. Rose?
Hi.
Aye. Okay, all right. We did not plan this, did we?
No, thank you.
For the record. Trying to stay in power.
It seems to me that last year I got elected because I wasn't here.
That is
Yeah, I
true.
know you showed up this year.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have nominated Tyler.
Carry on with the
Okay.
theme.
We'll move on to music in the park band selection. So, Owen, did you get everybody, to get their rankings?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you. First of all, thank everybody for doing that.
Thank you,
Um,
everyone.
it was
Short
an interesting
notice.
process.
Um,
A great job.
Oh, yeah.
Really, this
Yeah,
is, I know,
amazing.
it's a lot of lift off of me, which I've been talking about with, as, Music in the Park is growing. So this was really good for me to be able to focus on other parts of work that I need to do, including a volunteer program. So, which we want for park, so I think that's really great, and I'm gonna let Owen just take over on explaining what Owen did here and the results that, he found.
So we should all have a packet in front of us of the results I summarized. So we received 22 applications this year. And for a reminder, we have 6 time slots. And note that 9 of the applicants are returning performers. 1.4, I didn't look further back. And during this, the application, the bands are asked to or genre, and they can do multiple selections of each genre. So this box on the left is the count of all the genres we have. It's going to be more than 22. Since we're trying to make sure that we're including genres that might not get represented, I put each band into a larger genre group. Rock and alternative, roots and acoustic, soulful and groove based. Grouping. We had 9 from rock and alternative, 8 from roots and acoustic, and 5 from soulful and groove based. ChatGPT helped me come up with that name. I'm not a genre person. We used a Google form to receive feedback from every Parks Board member. All 7 Parks Board members provided input. And so we asked for one thing, is to rank the bands, each band from 1 to 5, and the description of what 1 to 5 means is right here available. But then we also looked within genres and asked board members to rank within the genre a ranked choice. So for rock and alternative, they have to, it's 1 through 9, or for soulful, it's 1 through 5. And with the rank choice, or with both of them, I came up with just an average input. And then I will note that one member does have a conflict of interest, and they did not rank the conflicted band. So basically, there's only 6 surveys for that band, and that very well pulls out that conflict of interest.
We'll just declare that, just so that it's on the record. It's Tyler Pellet, who's a member of Family Tradition, and he also did declare that conflict last several years.
So I put these 2 sort of ranking techniques, the rank choice within genres and the just overall ratings side by side here in order that they came out, their overall rank, from most preferred to less preferred. And there's a little bit of theory around the ranked choice in that it may provide additional weight to genres with less representation, because they, I won't get into that. But it can also provide additional weight to genres that we might not, as Parks Board members, prefer. Because we're forced to rank, say, yeah, this person's the best, regardless of our preference.
is we have two lists in front of us on page 2, and we should decide on one of the lists to move forwards so that staff can begin scheduling these bands. I would also say I want to hold off on talking about merits of individual bands or musicians. We should really be focusing on my techniques here in surveying and ranking, whether this genre category makes sense, and then please feel free to grill me if I've misplaced someone in a genre. Though it's very challenging to bin people or bands.
I just wanted to add for Seth a little bit of background. We did, before we did this, about trying to make sure that we're not calling out people's art in a public forum as we don't like them, they sound terrible. Some of that discussion's gone on in the past, and we want to make sure we're not doing that. This is people's expression of their art and music, and we do not want to do that. We're just trying to simply choose, a list of folks to go with.
Yeah.
Seth, or Kat, Owen.
Let's just do last names.
I know. And just so that I know for sure that I know what I'm looking at here, on page 2, the ranking generated by the board members, that was the first ranking that we did.
Yep.
So, and that is the accumulation. So DTW Light received the most votes as such. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure on the second one, that's all genres, right?
Yeah.
So it's still DTW Light got the most points regardless of the genre, or let's see, how am I?
Yeah, I guess why wouldn't
Like
there
the
be
least
3 tied for
represented?
first, 3 tied for second?
Oh, yeah. So I took. Well, it might make more sense when we look at the chart 2 down, because they don't tie, we get an average, so the actual ranking doesn't come out to an integer, it's an average.
Okay.
So yeah, these are the 2 on the second page are the 2
I think that's what
ranks that we're looking at.
Say
Yeah.
that again?
I think that's what you're asking is like, why isn't there a first for each of the genres, and why are they kind of?
Yeah. We can. We'll go delve further into that. as we
Dig
go.
into that a little
Yeah.
further. Okay.
So some of what Owen did this year is, we seem like we're always improving this, and it's great. It's so much easier than when I started here, which was, I think, like 4. I think this is like the 4th music in the park I've worked on. And so some of what Owen did is looked at the survey that we did last year. We did discuss at that time some things that seemed clunky, or like we didn't really need that information, it wasn't helpful. So has kind of honed in the process even more this year.
But I'd say keep these 2 lists in mind, because I'd like to choose one or the other to move forwards with. And note that if you look at about the top 10, they're really all the same bands. So we do have sort of clear preference either way, and I'd say 10 because in scheduling sometimes there might be a scheduling conflict. It seems like either way we've selected about the same 10 bands. So if we look on page 3, this is the actual average rating for that 1 to 5 across the board. So this is the simplest way to look at it, is just rate them. Are they appropriate for this venue and for this event or not? And then if we go to page 4, this is their average of their rank, but coming out of within that genre. So, for example, if you have a rank of 2.3, that means that, that your average place was 2.3. You're not going to have a 1. We're trying to explain that.
Before you go on, does Rose have this in front of you?
Yes.
You have it, and you can hear okay, Rose?
I can, yep.
Or I should say, since this is a whole number, the first band here with a 2.0, that means that 50% of us said that they were in first place, and 50% of us said they were in third place. Or all of us said that they were in second place.
Okay.
And so then the bottom one is okay.
And then to visualize it a bit, on this graph here. This graph is organized on that scoring from 1 to 5. Just overall most preferred is in blue from top to bottom. And then the orange there is, you can see their place, and they, I forget the term, but they are, number for place is better. You want to be in first place versus last place. You can see in general, there's a little bit of correlation. As the blue goes down, the place goes up. And then if we go to the next page, this is where I split it into genres a bit. So the first block of 5 is that soulful and groove-based music genre. And you can see the rankings within that genre, and then their placements, how they correlate within that genre. And then the next grouping is the roots and acoustic, and that's from that rating score 1 through 5 down, alongside of the genre rank. And then the third section there is alternative, and you can see how as the rating goes down, the ranking goes down. Well, up. And then this last one, just to kind of try to check, because we are trying to look at better ways to survey and rank these bands. I wanted to look at this overall rate of 1 through 5 versus trying to do sort of like weighting with genres and making sure that underrepresented genres can be included. So one thing I noticed is in the top 50% of both of them, going back to that main list there, genres are represented. Actually, there seems to be a preference for the soulful and groove-based genre bands. In both cases, all 5 bands are in that top 50% category. And then, if you'd like data, I have an R squared for the genre ranking versus the just overall rating ranking, and you can see the R squared is 0.74, which means it's not great. 1 is perfectly aligned, and the less you go, the less it aligns. That's about the extent of the sort of data interpretation I think we can do with this. I think both lists are pretty well aligned, and it's a good way to look for red flags where maybe something that's highly rated is actually scoring low in its genre, or vice versa. Something that's scoring very high in its genre is not being highly rated.
I think that was some of the issue that we had last year, was that question was kind of left. So I think that Owen's done a great job of just making sure that we're balanced. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not. Very good. Yeah, we're taking everything into account.
All right, questions for Owen?
That's good. Really good. I just don't know which list to go with.
Yeah, so as Owen said, picking one of the lists is my preference, and then what I will do is take that list and start looking at it, how it lines up with the dates that they weren't available, and then I'll work off of that list. So on this page 2. Yeah. So I will have preference. Like if DTW Light is the top preference, which they are in both, then I'm really gonna hold preference for them. And if there's a third one down or a fourth one down and they conflict and they're only both available on that date, then I'm going to prefer DTW if they're able to do that. So just so you know how it works for me. Last year was a good example. I did try to weed out some of the bands. I reached out to everyone that was listed out of state because we had issues with that last year, and we chose some bands, and then when I reached out to them, they said, wait a minute, we didn't know you were in Oregon, we can't do it for that much money, even though it's very clear. So some of those things happen, but we tried to reduce that a little bit this year.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Last year, the first Music in the Park, I think, was a school band.
Yes.
Are they also included, but they're not in here?
Yes, so we restructured the dates for Music in the Park this year. So I believe the school bands are on May 15th, so they're gonna do like a school's summer kickoff. Why are we here? We're doing this to raise donations for the Performing Arts Benefit Fund that helps the students. So we'll still do that concert. I know at the very least the middle school is going to be involved, and I think the high school is potentially. We're not sure yet. Yeah, I can't remember, but
They weren't last year.
I think they are. I think that's why we've switched the date, was to try to accommodate multiple schools. But we are having that. And then we're going to push until the end of June. So we're doing like the 4th or the last Sunday in June. And then we're doing like the second Wednesdays of the next month and the 4th. So we're doing second and 4th, second Wednesdays, 4th Sundays, just to make it easier. We've heard in the past, like, the last Sunday, wait, what is that? Which date is that? And we tried to make it less confusing.
Well,
And we had to move to Wednesdays for conflicts with other,
So the
things
June
happen.
one is not the last Sunday.
then I'm not sure what the pattern is, but there was a pattern, yeah, with those that we adopted and
Because it's,
discussed.
well, according to this, this is from our December meeting, June 22nd. Oh, I see, it's the fourth.
I think it's the 4th, the
Sunday.
4th Sunday.
So it's
yeah.
not the last Sunday, it's the
Right.
fourth Sunday.
And just so everyone here knows, we've moved to Wednesdays,
Yeah.
not
Wednesdays.
Thursdays any
And
longer.
we're still looking at 6 to 8.
Yes, same times.
So the high school jazz band has committed to perform on May 15th.
Yeah, so I think we have both the high school and the middle school, so that's great.
And May 15th is Wednesday?
It's maybe a Thursday, I'm not sure exactly. So does anyone does anyone make a motion to pick one of the lists and then discuss it further? How do you
Well,
want to be here?
Owen, appreciative of all the work that you did and all the statistical information. Which one of the lists do you feel gives us the best information?
I think the first left, the ranking generated by board members, using our combined rating of 1 through 5 provides the best information because we have clear direction of what 1 through 5 means. Reading these descriptions, I think that's informative and it aligns with our the goals of the event. And looking at genre, there's a little bit of reshuffling, but overall there's nothing being left behind. And actually it's interesting that the genre that has only 5, the smallest genre is highly represented in the top of this list. So I think that the simple way as our just overall rating to produce a ranking.
All right.
I kind of agree with that as well, because I think with the other one, you putting a band in the wrong genre, especially if they cross over to, and then they might be in an unfavorably crowded group instead of the other group.
Correct.
I like the left hand. Would anyone like to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we use the ranking generated by board members combined rating of 1 through 5 on the left.
All right, motion's been made and seconded that we use the ranking generated by board members combined ranking of 1 through 5 as our list. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. All right, so then the next step is that you get to start talking to people.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, but before we go on, you responded to the email about wanting to know who performed last year. Is that an important piece for us or not? We'll talk a little bit about that.
I think what we've tried to do is just make sure that there's some balance. There are local bands who have helped us out in a pinch before, who, you know, we've had bands pull out and they've come in and helped us and kept the event going. So I do think that we like to balance a little bit where we're bringing one or two new bands in and giving them a chance, but we're also, you know, keeping some of these other folks. We don't pay thousands of dollars for people to come play here. So I think we do rely quite a bit on those folks that come back and apply every year, and I think they're our community favorites. So I don't think it's an intense factor. If we felt like every time we were picking the same exact bands, that becomes an issue. It'll get boring for people, and we want to make sure we give other people a chance. So I keep that in mind when I'm looking at the list. I mean, if it felt like these 6 bands are the only ones who could say yes, and they've all been here, I might work down the list just to make sure we're bringing someone else in. So I take a little bit of liberty to try to balance it out.
All right, so you're doing that on your own?
Yes.
And you're okay with that?
Yep, and then I will come back and let you know when I have a list finalized. I'll bring it back to the park board so that you know what the actual schedule is.
All right, does anyone else have any other questions? Again, Owen, thank you very much. It was relatively easy to go through and do that, and certainly it's very helpful in choosing our bands. All right, so you got to stay on the park board. Projects for fiscal year 25-26. You want to talk about that? That's in the packet, right?
Yep, I will talk about this. So we've kind of discussed some version of this the last several years, and then intermittently before that. The city council does have a strategic plan, and in past years, we've looked through the park master plan project list, said, here's the park board's recommendation on projects that should be put in that plan for the year. And that's been kind of your involvement in that process, which then translate to capital improvement project plan list. The council is restructuring the strategic plan this year. We're doing a different process. We're reworking the document and how it works for staff and council and the community. If you're interested in that, they're going to have a work session on Monday that you can tune in on and look at. But part of what we're doing is trying to remove the list of capital projects. So the way that it's been structured is that there's, you know, replace sewer line on 16th Street, replace play equipment, and it didn't feel very strategic for the community for us. We have a capital improvement plan that addresses those things. And so we're shifting a little bit. I can't tell you what that's exactly going to look like because they're not finished with it. But this year, what I thought we would do is go over the project list that's in the Parks and Trails Master Plan currently with status updates, and then look through the implementation steps from the plan. I just provide some little updates on kind of what I've seen that's happened during the year for that. And then if you have anything that you want to say about any of these projects or other projects, I just encourage you to share that with me, and I will share that with the council in the minutes, just so that they're aware that you have thoughts on those things. So first, I just like to go through our list. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to look through it, but this is the existing list, and then there's some updates on there. So I open the floor if anyone has questions on any of the progress or updates on those, anything that's listed on those questions.
And you're on the page 1, the project, the replace skate park is the first one. Is that the one you're
Yes.
looking at? Okay. All right, is everybody there? All right. I will ask about the skate park. It just says on hold for future funding. Where are we? Has the council said, yeah, we want to do this project or not?
Yeah, it is on the capital improvement plan. It's pushed out pretty far. several of our park projects that we've done recently have taken a hit on the parks budget. And the whole thought of this project was that it's going to rely very much on hopefully a large grant from like Oregon Parks and Recreation. The city council did authorize and direct the city staff to apply for that grant. That would be the same grant as us for the Skirvin Park rodeo grounds, bathrooms, ADA pathway grant that's part of reworking the grandstands there in that whole area. So that was an $800,000 grant. And to be frank, applying for another $400,000 more for a skate park at this time is unlikely to be successful. You know, we could do it. I just don't think council's interested in this, in staff spending our grant writing time on something that is not likely to be awarded at this time. But it has been in the plan. I think it's in there for 26, 27 or 27, 28. It's on the capital improvement project list. They can change that at any time. City council reviews that, goes through a process with their subcommittees. So they, you know, I can't promise that it stays on there, but they are aware. We have 3 new council members and a new mayor, as you know, but they are aware, I think, maybe not the new council members, that it is a priority of the community. The community has said we want a skate park. Although we have heavily discussed that on this committee as well as to, you know, having more of those people come forward. So that's where it's at. It's kind of just, it's on hold. We don't have a way to fund it right now. We don't have budget in the park fund. We don't really have any good sources that we think we can get that much grant funding to complete it, but it has not gone away. It's just sitting there kind of waiting for those opportunities to open up again.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Other questions on the list?
Well,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, great.
The pedestrian scale lighting
Yes.
in the city park, that was in the strategic plan?
That is in the park master plan.
Okay, because it sounds like they're using the lights they took out from the
Downtown.
streetscape. So was that in the original plan or not, or is that just?
I don't know if it was in the original plan. It was just a way that we saw to repurpose and
No, that's great.
yeah, and on the staff updates when we get to that, you'll see that they repurposed and
Okay. No, I think that's
retrofitted
good.
them. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is generally, what's our role here? I mean, should we be saying to the council, hey, our city wants this skate park, like, put some time into this, please, or what's our role?
you can say that. I think at this point, like right now, there's just not a lot that anyone can do. Like you could say it right now. You could say it as we just want you to know that we are still thinking of that and we're still focusing on it. They have access to your minutes. So if you say something here, you know, the minutes from their boards are shared with them. You can reach, you know, you can always say, we want to pass this information on, and I can put it in our update that, you know, the park board wanted to pass this message along. You know, there are ways.
It just feels like if this board was prioritizing Skirvin Park versus skate park, maybe we would have put them in a different order.
I don't think it would have happened because a lot of the funding for that project was another big economic development. It was they were matched. It was just you know, so they heavily weighed it out. They know that the skate park is a high priority, and they did discuss that at the time. It's just that it was one of those things that funding wise at the time they felt that this was going to bring more overall to Philomath than the skate park is going to bring. Some of that just was that we've not had a good show of support. Sorry, Rose, I know that you've been supporting and you have some people that have shown support, so I don't want to discount that, but just overall, they have not seen what they would feel comfortable saying, let's push everything else aside and do this. But I wouldn't say they're not thinking about it. They do discuss it, and every year it's on the capital improvement plan. If I saw that they removed it, I would definitely say something, you know, as staff. but I don't think there's a threat of that. It's definitely on there.
It's not just a park issue with the skirting.
Great. I think Rose's hand was up.
Oh.
Are you? Hello. How likely is it, or I guess, is it possible for our city council to say no skate park and have it completely removed from the plan? Or is that not foreseen?
Foresee that at this current time with this city council. One of the city councilors I know told me that they hear about the skate park all the time. It's the most thing that they're asked about in the community. So no, I don't think that it's going away. I don't see this current makeup of council that is now in front of us being one that's going to say, hey, get that skate park off of there. But it is projected out, and that's to allow us to try to get some funds, get more funding options. And so that's what they've chosen to do to try to give us some success in getting to it. But they've left it on there. They're not taking it off.
And I think I've seen somebody tabling, like community group trying to raise money for it.
Mm-hmm.
Are they on our radar, and how involved are they? And
Now, Rose, would you like to speak to that?
Sure, yeah. So that's BABS, Build a Better Skate Park. And I was raising my hand prior to that also because just want to kind of thank the council, honestly, for kind of pushing it out, because it's also giving BABS some more time to get more community gathering together and get a plan together. Oh.
Sorry, that was my bad.
So strategy-wise for BABS is not gone. BABS has been taking a bit of a break, but definitely we're looking for more community involvement. I think that was part of the issue, was that there was a lot of people want the skate park and talk about wanting the skate park, but when it comes to showing up for BABS events or showing up for the park advisory board events, we're just not seeing that kind of involvement. And so I think that's one thing that strategy-wise BABS is going to be working on for 2025, is trying to get out into the community more and collect that representation. A lot of the leadership of BABS were people who were not skaters, who just wanted to see this good thing in the community. And so we're trying to tap more into the skating community, the folks that will actually be using it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And what is the progress on the rodeo grounds?
I don't have like a specific day-to-day update, but I do know that it's fully progressing. They're constructing things over there to get ready to be able to put the grandstands up and the bathrooms up there. They've had to do a lot of work getting things above the floodplain level, and so there's been quite a bit of work going into that. I don't think it's exciting to look at yet, but the grandstands should be going up fairly soon, just here as we move it into spring.
And will it be done by this July, or is it?
It is supposed to be done.
And they have all the money they need?
I think that the Frolic is still fundraising for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Bruce has her hand up again.
I don't know if we're going in order of this list, so apologies for jumping around. But the ADA accessible pathway connecting 9th Street to Mary's River Park, where is that proposed to be? Is that the bridge?
Part of why I put those on hold, there was a discussion with staff internally, and there was some confusion as to what that project was or what the intent was. And so we're not currently working on it. There's some issues with some ADA access, just as far as the pathways go on the surface on the pathways. Technically they are ADA, they're not like paved pathways, but they are. So they have done some work in that regard in several areas of Mary's River Park. But we needed to do some research and try to find out, you know, what exactly that was intended when this was put in place. Because it doesn't have a whole lot about it in the plan. So that's why that was updated that way. We're not currently working on it, I would say, but it's still on the list.
Sorry.
I have a comment and two questions. So I was just gonna comment, since there's one thing being removed, it's the invasive vegetation management at Reservoir Park. Last year, I assessed it, and it was, I think there's $10,000 earmarked. It didn't need $10,000 of contract work. Public Works, and probably the neighborhood is doing a fine job keeping ivy off of the trees and cherries removed. So we found some savings there. Flossie Overman Park. So I have one question on the replacement play log. Is that a natural log, and is there a local source that is willing to donate that
For
log?
this list.
Yeah, and then also with the shade trees, I see that's on hold, and just wondering why and if there's anything we can do to help.
Yes, so several things. There have been discussions here about Flossie Overman Park and the condition of the park. Some community members came forward and reached out to the park board. I have gone out there. I've kind of done an assessment. I wasn't here when it was built, but there are some beautiful photos, drone photos of when it was built. It's never going to look like that again. You know, that's just how things are. But we are trying to identify, as staff, I think our next steps that we've been discussing are trying to get more into having not just a maintenance, let's maintain it and just maintain it, which we do, and the parks are kept up and, you know, as well as they can be with staffing that we have. We have a lot of parks. But to start looking at those as projects. So, which we're kind of doing with Triangle Park. That came from me. I went up there last year and said, this park has some tired things. It has some things that just need to be removed, and I don't want to see them just get removed. We need to do an assessment. Where are we at? See if we can budget some money to refresh. You know, things need refreshed occasionally. So Flossie Overman is kind of in that phase where, you know, there were a lot of donated trees and plants initially. They weren't all the most viable. They came from, I think, like watershed type of thing, so they weren't expected to all live, but a lot of them haven't. I think there's just some work that we could do in looking at that, and you actually may be a really good contact for that, just to kind of help with some ideas for some places that are struggle places, like, why are there so many weeds there? Well, we can't spray there, and look at this area. What do you do? So that is something that I'm trying to look at with Public Works and seeing if we can make maybe a project to budget for next year. We're really tight on park funds right now, so it's gonna have to be minimal, but immediately the play log was a natural log, but it didn't last well. It is a huge log, and it's rotted out, and that park hasn't been there very long, since like 2018. So we are looking at other options. They do have wood that's made into play logs. They have composite type things. Looking at options on that. We like that it's a natural park, but we also want things to last, and we can't, you know, even though the first log was donated, it's just a lot for us to have, like, now that log rotted out again, and it's a problem. Like, I think it's been, you know, having issues for a little bit. Because when I got there and looked at it, I went, oh, this has been an issue for a while. But the kids were really enjoying, like, digging like, their little animals, digging for grubs. I guess that was a new nature thing that they got to do. But yeah, so we're just looking at options for it. We're just gonna budget what we're thinking that it will take to replace that, and just find something. It might also not be a log. They have some really cool other play equipment that will go nicely with that park and keep with that nature theme that might provide some other opportunities for play. So we're just kicking it around. I will try my very hardest, if we can, timing wise, to bring it back here with some options for you all to look at and have input on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The invasive vegetation management, are you saying they're removing that from the list, or they're removing the vegetation?
I'll just say that it's complete. It's not, it just was a non-issue, and really ultimately we looked at it.
It brings up one other thing, is that whole issue of volunteers. Has that been discussed anymore? Because that was a council thing, right?
Yeah, so.
Has that been discussed anymore? Is there?
Yes, so I'm actually taking that to council, I think, on Monday, if I can get my stuff together, but it is a huge project. It is basically like, volunteers today are essentially like hiring employees. We have to have applications and job descriptions and insurance coverages and all kinds of sign off on this and read these policies, and that's the world that we live in, which is why I have pushed back so much on that, is that it's not to not do it, but the council does need to give me some direction on this is what we want to do. But I have been working on some policies for them to look at. They got to make a decision on how they want to cover the volunteers for liability purposes, and so hopefully that's going Monday, and I'll have some direction. We have some other needs. Flower baskets are going up again this year. We hope to be able to have volunteers for that. So, yes.
Okay.
So anything else that anyone wants to discuss or sticks out? I'm not going to go through this whole thing. It's just really like very informational for you. Is there anything else that sticks out that you want to talk about? Now is the time.
It might be too far or too soon in the early planning, but the shelter number 2 playground equipment, is that equipment unusable, or are we looking to refurbish it and maybe donate it to somebody?
Sometimes when you remove equipment, you can put it on like public surplus, or we can, depending on who it might be donated to, might be able to donate it. We have a surplus policy like in our code, but they allow us to do both options. So it could potentially, I just think that it's past its useful life. I haven't actually put eyes on it. That's what I hear. And our intention is to chip away at it because we don't have enough budget to replace it all at once. So I think it's just going to be some identifying which piece to start with and kind of go around.
Specifically thinking about the Caterpillar, seems like it's pretty sturdy and still in good use. And I know it's been around for a long time.
Okay.
Right. Your staff updates, we've kind of covered some of that stuff,
Yeah.
haven't we? Do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, I'll just very briefly go through it. Lighting, we talked about that. We're installing those on the school side near that gravel area. They're doing that currently. They did have to pull off their staff member that was working on that to do some downtown work. But I know that they're actively working on that currently, Public Works is. Cochrane Park, we'd had a contractor that had volunteered to build the pavilion. And we've been unable to make contact with them again, so we're not sure if they're still willing to do that or not. If they are not, we're probably going to have to start looking at some options to have that done, because again, we are short on park funds, and that park did eat up a lot of those funds. So we're hoping to be able to get some donations and maybe volunteer contractors to do that. And then Triangle Park, yes, that's just an update on where we're at, which is the next agenda item. So, well, I guess that's this agenda item. Triangle Park, so the existing play structure of the slides is staying. But those swings, you can't really see them. You can see I think that's just like I don't know what that is. It used to be swings, or it's a pull-up bar, I'm not sure. On the side there are going to be replaced. We don't have a set swing type for Philomath. We kind of take it park by park and what seems like it fits well. I think we're small enough to do that. We don't have to mass order swing sets all the same. I think type C is what we put in Cochrane Park. I think they have to be buried deeper because they're a single pole versus the other two, which are maybe a little bit easier to install, which some people would probably prefer. The B takes up more space, and I think A takes up a little bit less space. So I was hoping just for your ideas on which ones you liked, or just a little input for which kind of set, and then some color input, and then if there are any other questions. Rose's hand is up again.
All right, Rose, you have a question, comment?
I'm wondering I don't know the exact terminology, but the ADA type of swings that are at Cochrane Park, do they
Yes.
require a certain type of frame for that? And are we considering those types of swings for that park? Because I do know because of the location, there's a lot of kids that access Triangle Park.
Yes, yeah, I think the intent is to put in one, and I did have a picture, but I guess I didn't put it on here. Jeez. Is to put one of those ADA bucket, like the bigger bucket plastic seats,
Mhm.
and then a standard seat, like there is in Cochrane Park. Yes.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
And the only input I have other than that is keeping a green theme. I think for Philomath, trees is what represents us. And so the leaf or the grass looks very nice to my eyes.
What about matching the color
Yeah.
that's there?
Not matching the current set.
I was going to be silly and say we should match the Toledo Holler and go with orange and black.
Yeah. We need to do a park like that.
So the piece that's on the bottom there is gonna stay there,
Which piece?
this one?
Yeah, this whole thing is gonna
That'll
stay
stay
there.
there.
Uh-huh.
And so
Yeah.
what you're saying is that we should match it to that.
Somehow try to coordinate with
Yeah,
what
yeah, don't
it's
listen.
supposed to be.
I'm not getting involved with colors, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's that blue, like that just standard blue, and then maybe like the peacock, and then they don't really have a good purple. Probably go with that. There is that yellow tool. I don't know where that's gonna. It's probably gonna have to be relocated because I don't think it's in a proper place. So it's there, and there is some yellow also on the little spinny thing. Those are all kind of colors that are in there, or even that lagoon probably is similar to the color too.
It seemed to me that A would be a little bit more stable, but not taking up as much
As
room.
much space, yeah.
But on the other hand, I think the ones at Cochrane Park have held up okay so far, haven't they?
I haven't been there long, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've put in all three of these before in parks. Not really had any issues. I know C is prone to having the most issues if there's really heavy use with heavy people that are like abusing the swing set. So it can have the most issues, but again, it's buried deeper. I think A is probably your best option because it kind of has both worlds. It looks kind of a little more modern and fun, but it's a little sturdier maybe. I like it. Okay. Any other thoughts on colors?
Of course, agreeing with the chairman is always a good idea.
Other thoughts?
Do you guys think the green would clash with the existing like peacock and purple?
Yes.
I think it might complement it.
Once again, don't ask me.
Yeah, I think it would look all of a piece to have the colors be as close a match as possible.
Yeah, I would agree.
Would would your preference, because there is like that blue thing in the front, so you could bring in the blue, so that's tied in more, because right now it doesn't really have any, and I guess those posts might be blue, it's hard to tell. Purple, what do you guys like? Pick two colors, because we get two colors.
I think the peacock and the purple.
Yeah. I would go with the powder coated metal parts of the existing thing, because those are going to be the most resilient colors. So the blue and purple, the others continue to fade.
I'll put some options, and they'll give us like rendition drawings, so I can actually have them do a couple different color palettes. Okay. Well, great. That's good input. I mean, I think, it's nice for you all to be able to have some input on that, because otherwise it's just staff choosing it. I mean, I've done a lot of this, but it's nice to have you all some buy-in when you see it, in the park sun, you know that you picked that swing set. It's fun. Yeah.
You're doing one bucket seat though, for like a child.
It's like a plastic molded seat. I'm not a huge fan of bucket seats. I've seen a lot of kids get cut out of them. People, I'm not just gonna say kids, I'm gonna say people get cut out of them. The fire department would probably is glad that we don't have many of those because the last city I worked in, there were lots of calls and I was constantly ordering them. And they're expensive. They're like $200 each, so you're constantly.
So like a regular one and then more of a.
It's like a seat, yeah. It's like the one at Cochrane. Yeah, so it serves multiple purposes. You can put a smaller child in it, and you can put someone who's unable to sit on the standard swing in it. Yeah.
Okay, board updates. Anything board need questions about or wants to update? And then future agenda items or discussion items. I was trying to see those.
Volunteerism is just being pushed out a little more.
Yeah, I can try to give you an update on the volunteer program at the next meeting. Anything else that y'all see as pressing to discuss? We will, of course, be talking about music in the park now every month. So that's going to be on there.
So do you think we'll need the meeting on March 4th?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'll want to bring the band.
It's likely I will not.
And it's likely I will not be here on March 4th.
And that is okay as long as we can find a quorum.
Okay.
And we'll draw straws on who gets to run it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. There's 7 of you, so we need 4. So it would
Rose
need to be.
has her hand up again.
Rose?
Sorry to take us back, but on page 6, underneath the Parks and Trails Master Plan implementation steps, I'm noticing the policy for DEI, and that is in connection with Inclusivity Committee. As a member of the Inclusivity Committee, I'm wondering, is that something that we should be working on as far as developing a policy specifically for parks? Is that what that's referencing?
What it's referencing is that if the council ever directed the Inclusivity Committee to do that, that would encompass the park master plan related aspects of that. So it's not a to-do list at this point because the council is not directing the Inclusivity Committee, which is an ad hoc committee, to make a policy. So it was essentially something put in the park master plan, but it has not been great in the greater city for the whole entire city. So it doesn't make sense to try to work on a park only plan when we don't have one for the city. So I would say if that's something that you're interested in, you can talk to the Inclusivity Committee about it, see where that goes, but that's kind of where that's at. But it is one of the lists and the implementation steps. So I do like to that really is the same update as last year, but that I just keep that update in there. So that's where we're at with it.
One other thing I would say is that we need to, somewhere in the next few months, discuss music in the park. Who's going to be there? And that whole process. We've talked a little bit about that at the last meeting, talking about having at least 2 people there and the sound system and all that stuff. And particularly since Lindy's not on the committee.
Y'all are going to have to step up this year.
Yeah, she was a lifesaver last year.
I did ask her if she was still willing to show up to all of those and do it. She said, let's just let someone else take over. I want to give someone else a turn.
So anyway, we need to discuss that sometime before we start on that. All right, anything else? All right, we'll adjourn this meeting at 6:29.